She wasn't supposed to cry when he kissed her goodbye. That wasn't part of the deal. Their rules were simple. No sleepovers, no weekends, no questions. Just late nights tangled in sweat and silence. But that night something broke, and neither of them would admit it. The first time Ivy let him in, it was raining so hard the sound against her apartment windows drowned out the voice in her head screaming, "Don't do this again." He stood there, soaked black shirt clinging to his chest, eyes darker than the storm behind him, and said only one thing, "I can't stop thinking about your mouth." That was all it took. No small talk, no reason. Just skin against skin, like gravity had rules they were both born to disobey. Ivy told herself it was just for the night. He wasn't boyfriend material. God, no. He barely spoke in full sentences, showed up whenever he wanted, and left without a word. But he touched her like he was searching for something he'd lost in another life. And maybe she let him because she was tired of pretending she didn't need to be needed. 3 months later, they were still nothing. No labels, no promises. He'd text at 11:43 p.m. "You up?" She'd always replied "Doors unlocked." He'd slip in with that smirk that made her hate herself for melting. And every time, he'd press her up against the wall like it might be the last time they touched. But she didn't ask for more, because he didn't offer more. Still, she noticed things. The way he lingered after. The way he'd sometimes run his thumb across her collarbone like it meant something. The way he once whispered her name when he thought she was asleep. She noticed and said nothing. Because this was just a fling, right? It wasn't until that night, the night everything changed, that Ivy realized silence could be as intimate as a confession. She had fallen asleep with her head on his chest. That was the first mistake. She never did that, ever. But he hadn't moved. He'd let her rest there, his fingers tracing circles on her bare back until they both drifted. She woke up to the sound of his breath catching in his throat. He was sitting at the edge of her bed, head in his hands, shirt crumpled on the floor. Like a surrender. Ivy sat up slowly. "You okay?" He didn't look at her. "I need to stop coming here." The words hit harder than they should have. Like cold water over warm skin, she swallowed. "Okay." He stood, grabbing his jeans, avoiding her eyes like they might change his mind. "It's getting to." He didn't finish. "To what?" she asked, sharper than she meant. "To real," he said quietly. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Ivy stared at him, heart thudding like it didn't know what rules to follow anymore. She should have said go. She should have laughed and played it cool. But instead, she stood, walked to him, and whispered, "Then why do you keep coming back?" He looked at her then, really looked at her, like he saw the pain she tried so hard to bury. "I don't know," he admitted. And in that one broken sentence, something inside both of them cracked wide open. He kissed her like it was the first time, slow, careful, like he didn't want to hurt her but already had. His hand tangled in her hair as he leaned her against the bedroom wall, lips trembling against hers. This wasn't hunger. This wasn't heat. This was something else. His hands ran along her waist, anchoring her. She shivered. Her breath caught. He looked into her eyes as if asking, "Are you sure?" She answered with her body arching into him, wrapping her arms around his neck. pulling him down to the bed they used to treat like a crime scene. But tonight, they didn't rush. Every touch felt like a confession. Every sigh felt like a question. And in the quiet between their breaths, Ivy finally admitted the truth. She was already his, and it was starting to hurt to pretend otherwise. He didn't say goodbye, just pulled on his jeans, kissed her forehead like that wasn't more dangerous than kissing her lips, and left before the sun had a chance to touch his face. Ivy lay still, staring at the door long after it clicked shut. This was supposed to be nothing. So why did her chest ache like she'd just watched her future walk away? She tried to move on like it was just another night, but the sheets still smelled like him. The silence he left behind curled around her ribs like a noose. She scrubbed the scent off her skin, but it lingered. In the mirror, she looked the same, but she knew something had shifted. She was in trouble, because no matter how hard she tried to pretend otherwise, Ivy had done the one thing she promised herself she wouldn't. She'd fallen, and he hadn't even looked back. It was 2 weeks before she heard from him again. She deleted his first text without reading it. The second one she read. The third, "You home?" she answered. "Don't." That was all she wrote. But he came anyway. He knocked this time. She opened the door, already burning. He looked rough, like he hadn't slept, like he'd been haunted by something he refused to name. "I shouldn't be here," he said. "Then leave." He stepped in. So did the storm. The door slammed. So did his mouth against hers. There were no words, only heat, desperation, the wild ache of a man trying to forget something real by pretending it was still casual. His hands were rough, greedy, full of need, but underneath, she felt it. The tremble, the restraint, the war. She pulled away, breathless. "What are we doing?" He didn't answer. So she shoved him back against the wall, pressing her palm to his chest. "Tell me this is just sex," she whispered. "Silence. Tell me, and I'll let you take me right here." His jaw clenched. His eyes flicked over her face like he was memorizing her. "I can't," he said finally. And just like that, the air cracked. They made love that night. Not had sex, not fooled around. Made love that slow, aching, terrifying love. He undressed her like he was unraveling a secret. She let him see her, not just her body, but the bruises behind her confidence, the longing behind her laughter. And when he kissed her collarbone, he lingered there. When he entered her, he did it like he needed her to forgive him. Every movement was deliberate. No rough hands this time. Just worship. It wasn't loud. It wasn't fast. It was something holy. And when she wrapped her legs around him, she wasn't trying to pull him closer. She was trying to keep him from drifting away. Afterward, they didn't speak. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling like the stars might tell him what to do next. She lay beside him, her hand resting lightly over his heart. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. Her fingers twitched, but she didn't pull away. "Me neither." Silence. Then, "I left because I felt too much." Her breath caught. He continued, voice barely audible. "And it scared the hell out of me." Ivy blinked, hot tears burning. "I wasn't supposed to be someone you felt anything for," she said. "You're not," he replied, turning toward her, eyes on fire. "You're someone I feel everything for." That was the first night he stayed. The first night he asked if she had coffee in the morning. The first night she didn't cry after he left because he didn't leave. But things didn't get easier. If anything, the closer they got, the louder the silence between them became. He still flinched when she reached for his hand in public. She still pretended not to notice when he ignored her texts for hours. Some nights he held her like she was all he had. Other nights, he pulled away just as her fingers found his. He wasn't hers yet. Not fully. But he was trying. And she was holding her breath, praying she wouldn't drown waiting. She didn't want to love him like this. Not on the edge of heartbreak. Not while waiting for the other shoe to drop. But that's how he kissed her, like he was always one breath away from running. And she kissed him like she was always one breath away from begging him to stay. It had been a month since he came back. A month of pretending this thing between them had rules now. That they were building something instead of burning in it. But Ivy could feel it. He wasn't all the way in. And she wasn't brave enough to say it out loud. That night, they had dinner like a real couple. She cooked. He helped barefoot in her kitchen, slicing onions like he hadn't ghosted her for 10 straight days just 2 weeks ago. She laughed. He teased her. For a moment, it felt normal. Then the phone rang. He stared at it. She watched the light reflect in his eyes. A name she couldn't see. A past she hadn't earned the right to ask about. He silenced it. But something in him went quiet. Later, when they lay together, she rested her head on his chest and listened to the silence between heartbeats. "What are we?" she asked. He stiffened. She felt it. Every inch of him tense, like her question was a knife pressed too close to his throat. "We're whatever this is," he murmured. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I've got." She sat up, naked, sheets falling away from her body like soft accusations. "Do you even want me?" He looked at her like she'd just torn open his chest. "I'm here, aren't I?" "No," she said. "You're not. You're in my bed. But your mind is somewhere else." Double quotes silence. Then, barely a whisper, "You don't want the truth. Try me." He stood, pulled on his jeans, ran a hand through his hair. "I want you," he said finally. "I want you in a way that scares the hell out of me. I think about you when I shouldn't. I feel calmer when I'm with you." Like the world stops, screaming for a second. Ivy swallowed, heart pounding. "But I also feel like I'm going to break this," he continued, "because I don't know how to hold something that matters." He looked up. "And you matter." That was when she realized something terrifying. Love didn't always arrive wrapped in pretty packages with easy answers and perfect timing. Sometimes it arrived half-formed, broken, terrified. Sometimes it showed up as a man who didn't know how to stay, but was trying anyway. She walked over to him, slowly, like approaching something wild. Placed her hand on his chest, right over the place where his heart beat loudest. "I don't need you to be perfect," she said. "I just need you to show up." His hands cupped her face, and for once, the kiss wasn't an escape. It was a vow. They made love on the couch that night. Not rushed, not ravenous, just real. She straddled him, kissed every inch of skin he'd once kept hidden. His hands clung to her hips like he was anchoring himself to her body. Their rhythm was slow, intentional, like they were rewriting what love could feel like. When she came, it wasn't with screams or scratches. It was quiet, deep, the kind that made her whole body tremble from something she couldn't name. After he held her without words, and she thought maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something real. Until the next morning. She woke alone. No note, no shirt left behind, just an empty pillow and a colder room. She sat up, heart pounding, checked her phone. One message: I need time. That was it. 3 words, no explanation, and just like that, he was gone again. This time, it didn't just sting. It shattered. Because now she knew what it felt like to be wanted. To be seen, and to be abandoned anyway. She didn't cry, not right away. She sat there, staring at the message, the ache too big for tears. I need time. What did that even mean? Time to think, time to forget her, time to pretend they hadn't just fallen asleep wrapped in each other's skin. Ivy didn't text him back. Not that day, not the next, not even when she woke up with his name clawing at her ribs like a ghost that didn't know it was dead. Instead, she did the thing she swore she wouldn't. She waited for one more message, one more knock, one more excuse to forgive him. It never came. 3 weeks passed. She deleted his name from her favorites, stopped reaching for her phone every time it buzzed. She started sleeping on the other side of the bed, started breathing without holding her breath for his return. But it wasn't healing. It was hollow. And then, one night, she saw him. It was accidental, a rooftop party, summer heat thick in the air. She went with friends, trying to pretend she was okay. He was there, laughing, holding a drink, talking to someone who looked like she hadn't been broken by him. Their eyes met across the crowd. He froze. So, did she? He came to her. Of course he did. Like he always did when she was just far enough from moving on. You look, he started. Don't. She cut him off. But he was already in front of her, close enough to smell her perfume, close enough to lie. I've been meaning to call. No, she said, voice steady despite the scream inside. You've been meaning to forget. That's not fair. You don't get to decide what's fair. You left. He looked at her like she was the wound he never let heal. I didn't know what to do with what I felt. He admitted. You felt, and you ran. Because I'm not used to love looking like this. Like what? She whispered. Messy, honest, unavoidable. He didn't answer. So she stepped back. I would have waited, she said. I would have fought for you. But you chose silence. I was scared, he said. So was I, she replied. But I stayed. He reached for her wrist. She let him, just for a moment. Then pulled away. You don't get to come back every time it hurts, she whispered. I'm not your recovery. His voice cracked. I didn't come here to win. I needed to see you. You saw me, she said. Now let me go. She walked away, not because she didn't love him, but because she finally loved herself more. That night, she cried, not out of pain, but release. She didn't know if it was over, but she knew she couldn't keep bleeding for someone who didn't know how to stop the cut. 2 weeks passed. Then, one night her phone buzzed. Not him. An unknown number. I saw you leave that party like you were holding your heart in pieces. I let you walk away. I shouldn't have. Another message followed. I don't want time anymore. I want you. She stared at the screen. Then her doorbell rang. She opened it. He stood there. No pretense. No armor. Just eyes rimmed red, breath shallow. I didn't come to ask for another chance, he said. I came to earn one. She didn't move. I'm done hiding from you, he said. Done pretending I don't wake up every morning reaching for a space you're not in. I was scared because you made me feel real, and I haven't felt real in years. Tears blurred her vision. I love you, Ivy. She stepped closer. And if you ever walk away like that again, she whispered, voice shaking, don't bother coming back. He nodded. Then I won't leave again, not unless you ask me to. She looked at him, this man who had broken her, yes, but who had also made her feel more alive than anyone ever had, and she kissed him, not like before. This kiss was full of consequence, full of risk, but also full of forgiveness. This time, he stayed. No games, no half-truths, no vanishing acts, just morning coffee, quiet laughter, and a hand that always reached for hers beneath the table. He didn't fix everything overnight. Some scars still itched, some silences still stung, but love wasn't supposed to be flawless. It was supposed to be chosen, and Ivy, she was done being an accident. It took weeks to find their rhythm, to learn how to be near each other without tensing for the crash. But slowly, piece by fragile piece, they began to build something neither of them had dared name before. She let him see her fears the way she still waited for doors to close without goodbye. He let her touch the shame he'd buried, how hard it was for him to believe he could be loved and not abandoned. And through every raw confession, every unspoken apology tucked into kisses and long-held stares, they stitched themselves into each other's lives. One evening, they sat on the floor of her living room, eating takeout from the carton, laughing at a terrible movie. Her head was in his lap, his fingers lazily combing through her hair. And then he said it, quietly, without theatrics. I think I was already in love with you the night I left. Ivy's breath hitched. He looked down at her, a softness in his eyes she hadn't seen before. I just didn't know what to do with something that felt like home when I never had one. She sat up slowly, heartbeat thudding like thunder beneath skin. You don't have to run from this, she said. You can run with me instead. He kissed her, and it felt like a promise. That night, they didn't make love like the first time. They made love like it was the last time they'd ever have to prove anything. He undressed her slowly, reverently, with a smile that said, I see you now. And she touched him like she was memorizing a map she never wanted to forget. When he slid into her, they didn't move right away. They just stayed there pressed together, breath mingling, eyes locked. She whispered, you feel like mine. And he replied, because I am. Their bodies moved in a rhythm that was no longer about urgency or fear. It was about intimacy, knowing. Peace. His hands cradled her hips, her fingers laced through his hair. Their mouths barely parted, their moans softer now, deeper. She came with his name in her mouth and love spilling from her eyes. He followed, buried in her neck, trembling not from release, but from everything it meant to be fully seen. After, they lay in silence, not the kind that hurt, The kind that healed. Weeks turned to months. And eventually, one night on a beach with wind in her hair and sand between their toes, he dropped to one knee with a ring that didn't shine nearly as much as his eyes. "I know what to do with love now," he said. She laughed through tears and whispered, "Then start by staying." And he did. They weren't perfect. They still fought, still got scared. But every night, they came back to each other. Not because they had to, but because they chose to. Because what started as a fling became the one thing neither of them could breathe without. The end.